This is investing in audiences, not just buyers. So this thing here is finding that right kind of approach, and audiences are key here. Connecting those audiences are key, because if we understand that, we will ultimately be much better off across the entirety of what it is we're trying to do. And so what we do is we look at a process. So what do you put into each of those circles? Well, we put a process in, an operational process. I'll go through this quickly because it points out where most B2B businesses are challenged right now. When we look at it, we say first, planning and prioritization of content. A team that handles this, someone who owns this in your pure racy sort of model, who handles the planning and prioritization of content. Most content teams that we see are on-demand vending machines. They are the internal Kinkos of the content group. Sales asks for content, the C-suite asks for content, marketing asks for content, demand gen asks for content, and they basically are like short order cooks, and they're just basically making content up as they go. Planning and prioritization is a critical function, and it's the one, quite honestly, that we see the least in the organizations that we work with. Second, separating out the idea of content creation and digital asset production. Whenever I hear a CFO or a CMO come to us and say, we create way too much content already, I go, really? Let's look at that. Because what we mostly find is, nope, you're actually not creating that much or too much content, you're actually producing way too many digital assets. In other words, what we conflate is this idea of content with the container that it sits in. And we think about this, right? When someone says we need content, they don't say we need a story or we need a narrative or we need thought leadership. They say I need a PDF or I need a case study or I need a blog post or I need a white paper or I need a web page or I need an email. And we go, great, now our container is defined and we need to actually reverse that whole thing. To say we need a story, we need content, we need thought leadership. Let's use that to actually understand which and what digital assets need to be created from that. With that, yeah. So that's a really key component. Separating those out as two parts of the same process. Then merchandising, because once you separate those things out, now we're creating content that will live in multiple places across that buyer's journey for perhaps even multiple audiences, but certainly in multiple channels. So we need to merchandise it because, quite honestly, we may be wanting to tier the distribution of it, or we may be wanting to schedule it a little differently. So merchandising that content internally, and then, of course, activation and promotion of content as well. And then finally, not certainly lastly, but though usually at the last is, of course, measurement and insight, and comes right back around to the planning and prioritization. So this process, think about how we might put that into the content team.